गुरुर्मूर्ति पूजामूलं गुरुपदम् मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यम् मोक्षमूलं गुरुर्कृपा ॐ श्री गुरवे नमः।
The real shape of the Brahmanda is, it's an egg shape, ellipsoid, that is the correct mathematical description. An ellipse is revolved on its axis, it becomes an egg-shaped volume. It is covered by a field, which is a shield, which does not allow any other outer objects in the sky to enter into it, nor can anything escape from within the Brahmanda. This Brahmanda contains 14 regions. We are at the center of it in the solar system. Earth is a satellite to the sun, and sun is moving around in the central axis. That is the main axis, major axis as you call it. So the equation by x by y, x square by y square plus b square by there are four a, b, c, d for YouTube. A square by b square plus c plus c square by d square is equal to 1. So there is a constant means. You see, this is in a Brahmanda shape. There is a mathematical equation. The distance between the lokas, the solar system is going around in the central region. Above that, Swargaloka are the heavens, far, far above. There is no intercommunication. Now another, you know the theory that the expanding universe is already recognized. Universe is expanding, which means some thousands of years ago, these lokas were closer. This is, all lokas are receding away from each other at enormous speeds. There was a time when the Swargaloka, the heavens, were closer to the region of the earth, the solar system. Therefore there was a communication. The divine personality like Indra, Varuna, who are the rulers of that, were coming and going to the earth. Gods who committed any offense were cursed to be born on the earth. So Bhishma is another latest example. So another communication, for example, the Devas used to be physically appearing in the yajna to take the offerings. There was a time. And the rishis, great Brahmarshis, Vishwamitra and all such great men, they were able to communicate, and not only communicate but go physically to Swarga. After seeing the great sages physically going to Indraloka, some of the kings and other men also had the desire to physically go to them. But that's not possible. They are yogas, they are yogis, they are rishis, their capability is different. So there was a time when Swarga and Bhuloka, or the earthly world, had a closer proximity than what it is today. It's far, far away. So we have lost the sense that there is a higher world at all. Because of the distance, we have become grosser earthly beings, not having any connection, spiritual knowledge of the higher worlds. See, this is a decline. As long as the expanding universe continues to expand, we will totally lose our knowledge of the higher worlds. It is already happening. And again we are trying to, through scientific means, trying to understand whether there is any life elsewhere. Is there a life at all? In where? But as long as they are confining their attention to the theory of galaxies, they will not be able to understand the shape of Brahmanda. Brahmanda is an enclosure of 14 lokas placed at a particular distance, and it is expanding, thereby increasing the distances. The increasing distance also we lose the knowledge of the higher worlds also. But the Purana and the Veda, Rig Veda, and the Dashama Mandala, there are nice indications. We have to understand the structure of the universe, which is why way back in 1980s, I worked about 3 or 4 years. Finally completed my write-up, the structure of the universe. There are many galaxies. Till 1950, people used to think that our galaxy is the only one in the world, in the creation. There are millions of galaxies today. Not only that, they have also found out hardly 20-30 years ago that there are cannibal galaxies, which means a galaxy comes too close to the larger one that is lapped up, swallowed by this. So galaxies are being swallowed by a neighboring galaxy. All that is not happening in the Brahmanda. It is a hermetically sealed, securely sealed unit in which evolution of the soul, evolution of the knowledge of the beings is planned by the divine plan. We are evolving. So, species on the earth, the African race, Mongolian race, Australian race, Austro-Asian race, the Aryan race is the older. There are these regional developments. African life and evolution of the human body is the oldest. But Aryan race did not wait for such a long time. In the meanwhile, somewhere in between, in the mid-time of the evolution of the African race, an independent race was born and started working in the Himalayan region and sub-Himalayan region. That is known as the Aryavarta. This has a very long past. It is not a finally evolved branch of that African race. They are two independent units. So Aryan race has given rise to the Mongolians, to the Australian race and things like that. While the African race was independently evolving on its own within that region. The intercommunication started hardly about 4,000 years, 5,000 years ago. Before that there was no communication at all. So our race is an exclusive one, and this race in its expansion migrated to Europe. The European is a part of the Aryan race. He is totally different from the rest of the world. And some of the branches, interaction between the Mongolian race and the Aryan race migrated to the Far East and Indonesia and things like that. So the evolution in the history of Aryan race, they did not gradually evolve from barbarism to civilization, from civilization to intelligence, intelligence to spirituality. No. It started with spirituality. That is why. In fact, in the course of their meditation, they were able to discover the entire history of the creation, shape of it, various regions and various different cultures, various levels of intelligence and spirituality. All these they were able to discover in the Saraswati riverside. So symbolically, the entire evolution creation is ascribed to Brahmadeva. This is symbolically represented in the names of Himalayan regions. For example, Manas Sarovar. Whose Manas Sarovar is Brahma Manas Sarovar. His consort is Saraswati, is born there. As a result, Brahmaputra is born. Brahma, Saraswati and Brahmaputra. It's very clear. The family tree is represented. In fact, there is a creator. He is Parashakti, his Shakti is Saraswati, the goddess of intelligence. And then the Brahmaputra, the sustainer of the life on earth, water. And there was a big holocaust at one time. Huge water descended on the earth. Volume of water descended on the Himalayan region. That is the Ganga Avataranam. The Ganges came down. That was also an earthly geological event. This is in fact very clear history. I mean, if it is carefully presented in a logical way, the Purana is repeated as clearly history, clear history. There is no, in fact, in the Indian culture, there is no fiction. There has never been something a write-up like a novel. Novel is a European concept. It has its great purpose and it serves the purpose of literary merit. Only history was there, but presented in a mythological language. There are exaggerations, there are descriptions, and sometimes symbolism is expression in symbolism. Like that. Purana has its own language. So somewhere, and also Puranas there has been never an authentic copy of Puranas. There was no editing, no printing press. From word of mouth it used to be transmitted to people. They got it by heart and they started repeating it, singing it, whether in the king's court or before the public. So naturally the text underwent many changes. But at the same time, in the last 2000 years or 1500 years in particular, many things have been added into Puranas. Whether it is art of dancing, art of music, even that has been put into Agni Purana for example. That is a way of preserving the knowledge within the two covers of a Purana. So that Purana is a forever matter. Any other things is added into it, it is preserved. This is the history of Puranas. Puranas are history. So, in fact, a common sense approach is more than enough. Rather than denying the exaggerations as unreal, people with no sense of realism wrote these things. So, the Kali, about 2500 years were completed when Buddha was born. That is the first half of Kali is over. Second half of Kali started. Started with dismissal of the Vedic path to realize the ultimate truth. At the same, while accepting that there is an ultimate truth which has to be attained by every human being, moksha is necessary for one and all, dismissing the Vedic path, that is the started the second half of Kali. Now another 2500 years are over. Buddhism also vanished from the mainstream of India. There was a big confusion. Hinduism was confused and confounded. Buddhism created some flutter and then vanished. It migrated to the other countries. No, we are not only that, for the principle of ahimsa, not killing an animal, that has been adopted from Buddhism as a principle by itself. It's an exclusive principle that is capable of taking you to God. So, there are certain changes introduced in the Vedic religion of the Brahmin. On the day when they worship the departed father, grandfather and things like that, the ancestors, the day of departure, they are invited and their grace is invoked. So that is an annual ceremony, we call it. On that particular day, particular flesh of an animal could be offered. But that doesn't mean the Brahmin was a non-vegetarian eating all the time. That is only that day. And the Pitru Sesham is only taken on the tip of the tongue. He is not supposed to enjoy it. So, even this practice was condemned by the introduction of Buddhism. So the more puritanical vegetarianism has crept into the upper class in Hinduism. Certain influences of Buddhism are still found in the Hindu society. Another point is, Buddhism has introduced idolatry. India started worshipping the idols of Buddha. Before, what else can they? Before Buddha there was no God, according to the theory. And whom to worship? Worship only Buddha. How to worship Buddha? Make idols of it. The idolatry started with Buddhism. When the entire mass population of Hinduism were wanting to have something like that within the framework of Hinduism, so they started images of gods and temple construction, temple vastu, things like that. So in fact it is our God, divine images or the idols of gods is a new concept after Buddha, newly introduced. But that is holding the Hindus population together today. That is the backbone today. That is the mainstream of Hinduism. Without a temple, there is no Buddhism today. Otherwise, the Brahmin was the true Hindu, a Vedic Hindu. Rest of them are only devotees to the Brahmins. So they know Hinduism from Vedas has gone to the threshold of the poor man also. So he is worshipping the same Vishnu, same Shiva, same Shakti, which was not accessible to him. He was only supposed to attend and serve the Brahmin in the yajna. So Buddha brought this form indirectly, although he did not mean to reform Hinduism. Idol worship is the most important influence of Buddhism on Hindu society. Today you have idols of every god, every imaginable god and goddess. And not only that, even Baba, many sages, saints and gurus are also worshipped. But all that is not scientific, it's not acceptable. Yeah, an idol, Hindu ante, whom do you worship? You can worship a god or goddess who has his or her presence in the Vedas. If the god or goddess is not mentioned in the Vedas, he cannot be worshipped. How can you make an idol of some Baba and make a temple? What is the mantra? For that matter, Rama was not the god in Vedas. Sri Krishna was not god in Vedas. Is there a mantra for Rama? Is there a mantra for Krishna in the Vedas? So there was absolutely no question of building in a temple. Later, after the 13th or 14th century, temple for Rama, temple for Krishna, in the name of Vishnu. Because Vishnu has a presence in the Vedas. Started. So we are worshipping Vishnu only, and his incarnations are sculpted in an idol. Ultimately, a temple is dedicated to a god or goddess who is present. Otherwise, you can build a temple to your grandfather, keep an image there, worship him because you love him, you respect him. That is anybody's freedom.
But how about the avatar you said just now, Rama worshipped in the name of Vishnu? So even that doesn't have any support in the Veda as such?
No, లేదు వేదంలో లేదు. ఎక్కడ ఉంది వేదంలో రాముడికి మంత్రం ఎక్కడ ఉంది?
No, రాముడికి మంత్రం లేదు. But do we accept in your explanation the avatar concept?
అదే అది లేదని చెప్తున్నా.
లేదు.
దానికి అథారిటీ లేదు.